Hey, welcome everybody to With Thunder Supplies, a podcast where two friends get together to discuss the events and ideas that will shape our uncertain future and often other interesting things. I am your host, Steve, along with my co host, Zach. What is up?
Nothing much. Very lazy day. Got my oil changed, and that's about it.
Yeah, I had a meeting with the Girl Scout troop leader and had a
Ooh.
discussion about um, things I can do that would be very helpful for them, which is okay.
Nice.
Yeah, and then just fucking
You gotta have something to do when you're retired, right?
yeah, exactly. You gotta have a hobby. And then I dug out Bermuda grass and split kindling from scrap wood that came out of my neighbor's wood shop, and did that for several hours today to make sure I got some activity and some sunshine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then ran up the street to the corner and grabbed a fucking burger for dinner, and then got really stoned and cracked my first beer. I'm
Nice.
ready to talk about some things. So
Yeah.
we have a
Like
bunch of
what?
stuff, actually, a lot of good stuff. Not all the stuff that we
Always.
wanted to talk about, but we're going to briefly cover that they found Tupac's killer, and then when you look at the article, we'll point out some other interesting things. Like they already knew who his killer was, like for a very long time. They just were unable to uh, get strong enough case against him. They're like, yeah, we're pretty sure it's this guy, but we haven't figured out how to make it stick legally or whatever. Which I
Spoiling
think is
your own
bullshit.
bold.
I also, yeah, I'll offer my comments, but Donald Trump is in the news always, but I mean, this is specifically for a fraud case related to his company and some stuff that they knew when he was running for president the first time.
Yeah.
But now that they're sure he won't play ball, they're like trying to hit him with it this time, or maybe it took 6 years to actually build the case.
Mm-hmm.
That's also possible. That shit happens. Happened
Yeah.
with Hot.
Well, you want to get it right the first time.
Yeah, I mean, you can't afford to not get it right. Yeah, for suing someone.
Yeah.
Or pressing criminal charges.
Mm-hmm.
At any rate, and then the bigger story of the night is Dianne Feinstein dying. And we will discuss her life and legacy.
Yeah.
A little bit. And if we have time, we will maybe do some speculation ahead of tomorrow's big Ahsoka finale.
Ooh. I like wild speculation just as much as the next guy.
Let's get started. What do we got first on the docket, man?
First on the docket is the Tupac.
Okay, could you do me a favor and scroll down? Because there's a section.
More.
Oh, yeah. Further. Right there. Wait.
Here.
Nope. A little further. Nope. Down. Sorry, I should have controlled this. No, we don't need to know what had happened. I just wanted to go down to that's the guy. Down further. It's pretty much the last couple paragraphs. There, right there. Dwayne Davis was the shot caller. Go back. Jesus Christ, man. You got to scroll slow. I'm narrating what's happening right now if you're just listening. Dwayne Davis was the shot caller. Shot caller for this group of individuals that committed this crime. So that's the guy they arrested. There were actually 4 in the vehicle. The gun was handed to someone in the back seat, but all the other 3 people that were in the car that day were dead after at some point in the several years that followed due to unrelated incidents, gang violence, but unrelated to the Tupac thing. And he was the living one, and he was the one who basically made the plan because they beat up one of their friends or something like that in a hotel after a boxing match. That's what set it off. Said all the other individuals associated with are dead, he added, including Anderson, who denied his involvement with the murder to CNN before his death in a gang-related shooting in 1998, which was 2 years later.
Yeah.
Johansson said police have long known the outline of events that night, but lack sufficient evidence to bring the case forward. Johansson is the investigator. The decades-long quest to officially solve the case was reinvigorated in 2018, according to Johansson. Davis's own admissions regarding the crime were a crucial piece of the investigation. When police searched Davis's wife's home in July, they seized a copy of the memoir Davis authored, detailing the street gang life and the murder of Shakur. Scroll down a little bit. In the memoir, Davis describes himself as one of only 2 living witnesses to the shooting, the other being Suge Knight, who is serving time in prison for manslaughter in an unrelated case. Going to keep it for the code of the streets, Davis said when asked who of the 4 men in the car was responsible for pulling the trigger. It just came from the back seat, bro. Davis has confessed the crime to police in 2009, but the information was unable to be used, according to a former police detective who investigated the case. We sat him down back in 2009, and he confessed his role in the murder along with other co-conspirators. However, Davis had, quote, a proffer agreement, so we couldn't utilize that information that he was providing against him, end quote. A proffer agreement is an agreement in which a suspect agrees to provide potentially useful information in an investigation, but the statements made generally cannot be used as evidence against the suspect. So, and then Tupac's stepbrother, Mopreme Shakur, is also a rapper, said the news of Davis's arrest is bittersweet, which is great. So that's it. You can come back 94. You might already be on 94. There we are. Oh, no, I see. Yes. Never mind. Yeah, so I just thought that was interesting, right? Like, they're like, yeah, we basically knew, like,
for a decade or
more or less knew from the time it started.
Mm-hmm.
And about a decade later, we knew who it was or who could be held criminally responsible for it. But it took us another decade before we finally figured out how to do that.
Right.
And meanwhile, people are saying like he was taken out by like whatever, the CIA or something, for uncovering the crack epidemic or something. I don't remember, but
Yeah, but the same people are not going to take this as evidence. These lies by the government to hide the truth.
yeah, I was thinking about it, man, because they canceled Russell Brand and they canceled fucking what's her name, the flute lady,
Oh,
Lizzo. Yeah, they canceled Lizzo, and then now they're even trying to cancel Pac by being like, "Oh yeah, no, we know who killed him. His death was gang related or whatever." Take away him being a martyr for the cause.
You get nothing and you'll like it.
Man. At any rate, that
Yep.
shit happens, but that's cool. It's just something to talk about, and you know, it's and more than that, it's interesting to me to like really kind of get that as a perspective of like, and these cops are also doing other shit, right?
Yeah.
Like, so they might not be able to like, it's kind of cold, like it. They have to do triage, like they have a bunch of open cases, and they have to do what they can when they can.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that takes a long fucking time, like more than 20 years.
Yep.
So, at any rate,
admirable. A lot of work.
a lot of work. Glad they kept it open. Probably, I mean, it sounds like his family and fans and other people kept advocating that they keep it open. And also, I think like high profile shootings in Las Vegas, they probably have like Vegas, like politicians and stuff probably have a fairly big interest in ensuring that, given Vegas's history of what kind of organized crime presence is there, and like how you know, what is their role, right, in the scene there.
Yeah.
All right, so another one of our stories that I didn't tease up top was that this weekend, even if you pay attention to news, which I do, wasn't on my fucking radar, was that the government almost shut down. I mean, it was on my radar just because I got an email from the VA
Oh God.
last
Yeah.
week
Oh.
saying this is how this would affect you.
Mm.
So like clinics will be open, your payments still get sent, blah blah blah. But like some of our additional services, like getting help with like your GI Bill or connecting with other programs like nonprofit programs, they weren't going to offer any of that.
Mm.
But like the core of benefits would remain. And so at any rate, of course, they averted the shutdown like they always do, or they often do. Sometimes they
Yeah.
shut down for a little bit.
Yeah. It's ultimately stupid and
Yeah.
needlessly partisan.
Yeah. And it just, I mean, you have all fucking year to discuss
Well, yeah,
that.
but
Like,
I think the point
right?
is, to politicize it and just make it seem like, oh, well, we're the Republicans and we want to do this with the budget, so you should, vote for us because we're gonna, make smaller government. It's like, yeah, but at the same time, you're also gonna sell what the government used to do off to a third party corporation that makes a ton of
Who
money off
extracts
it.
profit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, just like they do with, oh, I don't know, the fucking veterans medical stuff.
Yeah. For real.
Outsourced
For
to
real.
third parties. Yeah.
For real. So just a quick summary. This is, I think, from MSNBC News or NBC News.
Mhm.
Today, this was yesterday, I believe. Today was the last day for Congress, or this was a couple days ago.
Mhm.
Today was the last day for Congress to fund the government. A shutdown was set to begin at 12:01, and in a last-minute agreement, of course, literally 11th hour bullshit.
Mhm.
House and Senate passed with overwhelmingly bipartisan majorities.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, let's look, we got a compromise right at the 11th hour. Like, we're bipartisan. And you're like, well, maybe it's just the pressure of the government shutting down. Like, was it enough fire under your ass to fucking pass something?
Look at how
It's just
functional our government is.
right.
Woo!
And that's kind of
Democracy.
that's really the theme of this show. And unfortunately, like, we just spent the whole first segment kind of giving the fucking cops of all institutions in American society a pass for like kind of taking their time, right? Like, yeah, we knew, but we needed some time, right? And
I
of course, they
mean,
could have done it faster, and they probably didn't care that much. And there might be other dimensions to it, but
yeah.
um, ultimately, like, yeah, none of these institutions are legitimate. And I think you're correct in pointing that out in this case too. Is that like we can't do something basic like a budget, like
Yeah.
literally like the thing you're empowered to do or you're obligated to do, right?
Yeah. And is what's so upsetting about it is it's like you can't even do the basics. Like, nevertheless, the big shit that everyone's asking for. Because no matter what policies you subscribe to, you generally still want some like pretty major shit done. And it doesn't seem like that major shit's getting done.
No. I mean, no. I mean, I think they benefit from the system this way because
Yeah.
then it can never do what it needs to do, and because they don't want it to do what it needs to do, because ultimately, like Republicans or most conservatives or libertarian types want to do is get rid of all oversight function of the government,
Yeah.
and so this is just as good, right? Like, make all those departments never have enough money to do what they're mandated to do,
Yeah.
and then they can't. Then there's too much work to do, and they'll never get to it all.
Hmm.
Right? And then this is why you're finding like, fucking fraud cases and shit or whatever, like decades later.
Right.
It's
Well,
impossible to track.
and then shit shuts down. I mean, eventually it gets to the food because I do believe that massive corporations like Tyson and stuff. Isn't that a federal oversight board
Yeah.
that comes in to look at it? Yeah, yeah. So
Well,
now
yeah,
like now your already dangerous chicken's going to be even more dangerous,
that's true. That's why I kill my own chickens.
right? Got to keep the
Right.
poop away from the chicks.
Yep. The bill passed by House Speaker Kevin McCarthy includes disaster relief funds, but does not include new aid for Ukraine. That was the big victory, I guess you could
Yeah, yeah,
say, by right wingers
yeah,
occupying a space that if you don't fucking get out, whatever political elite, if you don't get around, like, most people are not fucking happy that we have so much left undone and that needs to be done in this country, and we just give $20 billion. Oh, they need some more $30 billion or whatever, like
yeah.
2 months fucking later, and we're like, what the fuck, man? Like, maybe we could build some fucking affordable housing so we can get some fucking homeless people off the street. right? Like,
Yeah.
but of course,
You
like
could build a
people are
lot of
not
you
happy.
could build a lot of housing and get a lot of homeless people off the street. I dare say probably all of them with $20
Yeah,
billion dollars.
there is. Yeah, I think you could solve the problem for $10 billion a year just to kind of mask it,
Yeah.
to permanently solve it. Yeah, what we've given to Ukraine now might have been able to. I mean, think of how many fucking apartment blocks you can build with
$20 billion. Yeah. I mean, they're going to look like shit just because they're going to be done by the lowest bidder, but
a billion. 1 billion is a very, very big number.
mhm, mhm.
100 billion is 100 really, really
Really
fucking
big
big numbers.
numbers.
A
Oh
billion
man.
is just it's 1,000 million, man. Like it's
Yeah.
fucking crazy. So much fucking cash. At any rate, I did want to point out that this is a really like pretty much universal issue
Holy shit.
in the United States. Can you find some polling while I fucking monologue?
Pulling on what? Quick. Go.
American support for Ukraine war
Oh,
spending.
okay. Yep, go.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, like, it's just like as far as I recall, and he's going to give us a number here, like most people, and not just in our bubble, but most people in the country, when they fucking put 500 or $5.50 a gallon into their fucking tank while they just sit in traffic, right? Or get hit potholes or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're
That's a
driving
problem.
because they can't afford to live near where they work. Like it's just such a fucked system, and it's not a very popular issue, giving more and more fucking money. And I think more recently, yeah, there you go, 55. So a majority, but not a gigantic majority,
Yeah.
but it is a majority. And so Republicans, even though their ideas are not going to fix our country, they're going to wind up picking up support because they're ones that'll stand firmly against, like, no, fuck that. Although,
Yeah.
of course, they're totally down to give lots and lots of money to confronting China. It's just their neocons have like beef with a different group of people than the other neocons, right? Like that's the fundamental divide between the two parties at this point, is that their neocons, the neocons dislike different people.
They con harder.
They call, yes, I'm con harder. And there are a lot of Republicans that want to fucking give money to Ukraine. It's not, but there is enough of them to do things like this where they're like, no, we're not going to vote for it. Okay,
Yeah.
that's our minimum ask. You don't have to
Yeah.
cut all these programs we want to cut. And I haven't read it, so I don't actually know. There could have been a lot of that in the compromise too. But this Ukraine war funding has taken center stage on the concession that was made to get it passed,
Right.
which is a good thing. And it sucks that people who the vast majority of their other ideas are fucking awful, right? Are right on this issue because it's such a fucking 55% of Americans
Yeah.
in that one particular poll said they don't want to give any more money to Ukraine. So those House Republicans failed to pass their own bill, so they had to take the compromise bill that the Democrats were putting up, and then Joe Biden signed it on Saturday night. So a
Ooh,
couple of days ago now.
embarrassing defeat. Bam.
Embarrassing defeat. Yeah, no, it's
Seems
all
like that's
fucking
what should
Joe.
pop up in the video game, of the senators fighting. Embarrassing defeat. Fatality.
Fatality. All right,
Public
what's our next story,
humiliation.
dude?
Let's see
Are we going
here.
to talk about Donald Trump? Because then I think we're moving
We're
straight
talking
on
about
to.
John Trump, and then after that, it's straight to Dianne Feinstein.
That's perfect timing because this can is getting rather light.
Oh man, truly, I wish I had my own, but alas, no beer for Zeki.
Donald Trump, a former president, was back in court today. This time, the former president is answering for his business dealings in New York, and his empire might be at stake. The self-described property mogul has already been found liable for persistent and repeated fraud in this civil trial, according to documents. David K. Johnston is a Pulitzer Prize-winning economics reporter, and he joins Hari Srinivasan to discuss what this means for the Trump organization.
Christian, thanks. David K. Johnson, thanks so much for joining us. Last week, a judge found that the former president of the United States, persistently committed fraud as he built up his empire of businesses in New York. Just kind of, if you could, for people who might not have been paying attention to exactly what happened last week, walk us through what the judge said is there.
Well, the issue had to do with the values Trump placed on some of his businesses, principally real estate. And real estate is a range of value. You don't know what your house will sell for tomorrow, but if you have a house you think's worth $250,000, it's not going to sell for $200 million. And Trump valued some of these properties at more than 10 times what a already generous appraisal had shown they were worth. And he's been doing this for the whole 35 years that I've known him, making claims like this. And finally, it's become a legal issue.
Okay, and for those of us who aren't familiar with how that translates into the rest of the business empire, inflating the value of, say, your penthouse and how big it is or how much it's worth, what is the advantage you get from that?
Well, it allowed Trump to get larger loans on better terms because it appeared to the banks that their risk level was lower because the share of the value that was represented by the loan was smaller. And even though the banks all got paid back this time, the fact is that other people didn't get loans that they might have because banks all have a limited lending capacity.
Right. Now, how big of a decision is this?
Oh, this is incredibly damaging to Donald Trump. And it goes to the heart of who he is. Donald is his money. And he's always saying he has more money than he has. Once he told me he was worth $3 billion. I told him I didn't believe him. And so upset him that later that afternoon, he told another journalist he was worth $5 billion. He just makes this stuff up. And this is the first time he's ever been held to account for it.
So, yeah.
So I am not a huge fan of talking shit about Donald Trump because I think, as we were just talking about with the Ukraine war funding issue, and how about the people with the more fucked up ideas about how to run the country are right on one of the more important issues.
Yeah, massive spending.
Yeah.
Well, and you have to,
or not giving it to Ukraine.
Yeah, and what budget does all that come from? Like, does that come out of the military budget when you send over tanks and planes and shit?
Well, they just keep passing these continuing resolutions. So
printed out of nowhere.
It is printed out of nowhere. I mean, that's how fucking
most of it works anyway.
That's how it works.
Yeah.
That's modern monetary theory, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is also not to say, oh, we've never done one on modern monetary theory, have we?
Not yet.
Put it into the idea pool.
Idea pool.
Put a sticky note on the whiteboard. Put it at the junction of the purple and the green strings.
I gotta figure out a better way for tracking these things, but yes.
So yeah, I thought that was it's just important to talk about. Because
well, I think what? Sorry, go ahead.
Go, please.
I was gonna say I think a lot of people are gonna be happy and a lot of people are just gonna shrug it off. Obviously I don't think he'll be shrugging it off, at least I hope not. That'd be pretty shitty.
I mean, they're basically their objective is to strip him as an individual and his sons as individuals with legal rights, right? Like as citizens or whatever, sovereigns,
as entities.
And strip them of their right to operate any under any fictitious name. So that's like how it works. Like, you go to the old-timey newspaper, and in the back of it, it's like, oh, this person that lives at this address is going to do business under this fictitious name.
Because, so would that stop him from forming like Donald Trump LLC?
I think it would prevent him from owning any corporations in the state of New York.
Okay.
Yeah, owning or operating.
Yeah.
Right.
So
I don't know the extent of it, but
I
think it is substantial penalty. And ultimately, what he was doing, am I mistaken? Did they not fucking talk about this in 2016?
Regarding
like him before Donald Trump started his term, that he was fudging numbers, lying.
Yes, that is actually discussed later in the video.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, it was put out there, but people voted for him anyway because I guess if you
They-
lie and
they-
you're good at it,
what?
that's admirable.
Guess what?
What?
They're going to vote for him again.
Oh yeah, I mean, assuming he's not in
In
prison.
one poll, which happened to be an outlier, he led fucking Joe Biden by 10 points.
Yeah.
Joe Biden barely won in 2020. And in similar polls, Joe Biden was up by like 4 points. So they're outside the margin of error. He will lose.
Yeah,
And
and
this
they will run him, which is stupid.
And this case is happening now. They charged him a long time ago, and we knew about it fucking 5, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, whatever it's been. And it didn't change people's minds. So that dude is probably going to be your fucking president again.
Yours too, and
I'm
all of
talking to the viewers.
yours. Yeah,
I have no presidents. Only precedents.
and presents.
Well, who knows? I don't know. Apparently, RFK Jr. is supposed to announce he's going to run as an independent, or he might say libertarian because he's been talking to libertarians.
Yeah,
I think that would be the smarter move because libertarians have like way more ballot access than the fucking Green Party.
Yeah.
And I haven't yet to see anything from the Green Party that they're working on getting ballot access.
okay.
Or at least they haven't let it be known. I haven't heard of a strategy or seen it. And I'm still on certain mailing lists, right? I think I mentioned to you or in the show last week that I jumped on. I was like, I just like linger and like see what you exchange back and forth. And like, this is something I feel
I
the need
skulk.
to speak up about.
Yeah,
Yeah. And it's mostly because like I'm on the list because I worked with them on on the same thing, on the same committee for the 2022 election. And we really did a lot. Because we were the ones who negotiated and kind of instigated this partnership between Peace and Freedom and the Green Party, where we negotiate some seats and ultimately support each other's candidates. So we cross endorse.
yeah.
So essentially, like as far as like elections are concerned, we have the same ballot, which helps a lot in terms of like, I mean, it doesn't fucking help us win, right? But I mean, in terms of a perception of unity, and also like, so those candidates have more exposure and success, get more votes, even if they lose. But we did good stuff. But I'm still on the list. But I was like, I'm not fucking around with this shit, bro. It's a lot of work, and it's a lot of them more than like the actual physical stuff, like writing and editing and meetings and brainstorming ideas and shit. Beyond all of that effort, like it's fucking incredible emotional effort having to deal with some of the children that are into the elder children involved in that organization.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, in the state Green Party. And there's a ton of really amazing people. And then there's a handful of people that are like, they know, and the way that they conceive of or perceive the world or envision like the future is the only way. And if your ideas differ, then you're like a saboteur, like agent provocateur, you're a Democratic Party plan or some like a nuclear industry plan or I was accused of being a timber industry plant. Because I'm talking about fucking forestry, because I care about like the forests as ecosystems. I care about the land that I grew up on and have lived on and adjacent to for my entire fucking life, practically. And I get claimed I was a timber plant. And I was like, oh, fucking, it's like I was in the military. I worked in aviation. I was still working in aviation at that time. I'm like, how am I a fucking timber plant when I clearly am employed in aviation? It makes no fucking sense. I work 60 fucking hours a week in aviation. When do I have time to lobby for the fucking
maybe you're a plant there as well. You send the planes off course so they don't put out the fires. That drives the price of the wood that you are responsible for up. Think about it, people. He's a plant.
If I was a plant, I would be a pine tree.
Yeah.
Get
Is
it?
that due to some strange, thing that they do, and you're like, I want to do that. I wish I could do that.
No, just because those are the trees that are mostly up there.
Just growing.
I was going
really
to say
tall.
Doug fir, but most of the Doug fir are like are higher or further north in the Cascades and along the Coast Range. They're not.
Yeah.
They're kind of like introduced further south in the range because they're an ideal timber tree. So they're fucking everywhere, and they're problematic because we basically do all the replants with like timber, timber trees instead of like native or trees that are, you know, are still timber trees but don't make as good a timber trees like ponderosa pine, shit like that. At any rate, so there is that. So yeah, fucking, it's interesting. The political scene is interesting. I don't think this will hurt Donald Trump. And I ultimately do think that it's good that charges are being brought. Was it that video or a different video I watched? They were talking about people who've already pled guilty to some of the January 6th schemes.
Yeah.
You know, people just are like, yeah, I can't really deny it. Or when they're like, here, this is what we know and what the charges are gonna bring, and they're like,
I'm gonna turn over everyone I know.
Get less jail time, or you know, get probation and a fine or something.
Yeah.
Because a lot of it wasn't like super high level conspiracy shit. It's like he took a box of fucking stuff he wasn't supposed to take or something.
Yeah.
But with the express purpose of trying to whatever flip the election results.
Yeah.
We live in a crazy world, and guess what? Whose fault is it? Whose fault? And this will be the most wonderful transition ever. Whose fault is it that Donald Trump has like several legitimate charges brought against him, and also like definitely played a role in, at least stochastically, for January 6th and the Stop the Steal stuff? Who's so bad that they would choose to have that guy in power rather than fucking just allow an actual democratic process in a primary? Oh, the Democratic Party.
Oh,
imagine that. So now that we've switched gears to talking about a Democratic Party, even though we don't talk about electoral politics on this podcast,
there's an election's coming up apparently.
Di-Fi
So
is dead.
Di-Fi.
Show me your jazz hands, everybody.
And I'm not sad about it, and neither should you guys be. She started off pretty all right, weird childhood, and then kind of went downhill in the last 20 or so years. Strangely enough, like right as she became a senator. Probably unrelated.
No, I mean, dude, she's just fucking old. And it's also really funny because, like, I don't know, I have a lot of thoughts. Because, like, there's some, like, raw, like, women power stuff. Like, dude, she was born into a fucking wealthy family.
Yep.
Like, her father was a fucking doctor. Yep. And then she married a surgeon. Right?
Yep.
And then was married to him for 20 years before he died. And then she married an investment banker who was a billionaire and was married to his ass until he died like a handful of years ago.
Yep.
Like, she lived through 2 full fucking husbands, like 20 years and then 40 years. 2 whole husbands.
It's like, what's wrong with these weak men?
Ivy League shit. She started her political career before either of us were born, bro. She started her political career the same way they've groomed Kamala, Jerry Brown, fucking Gavin Newsom. They groomed them through the San Francisco Bay Area political machine as county supervisor for San Francisco and then mayor of San Francisco. I think that was the same route that Gavin Newsom took. He might have been like skipped the county supervisor. He did mayor and then lieutenant governor and then governor.
Yeah.
Jerry Brown, right? He was, I think, mayor of San Francisco and then went on to be governor of California and then came back and was governor again way later.
Yeah. But then he called it there and retired.
What's that?
So, but he called it then and retired.
But he called it then and retired because before he was the governor of California the second time, he ran for president twice and lost.
Damn.
Because the Democratic Party political machine didn't want him.
Very unfortunate.
I think, again, it's always been like, I swear to God, one of the probably most impactful ideas that I've picked up in the last couple of years is this, you know, and which is funny because I kind of like knew it from studying like the Civil War and stuff in college, but it really has stuck a lot more now witnessing political crises in real time, right? Like the phenomena of fucking Trump or Bernie or whatever.
Mhm.
Is this idea of elites competing, right? Like Jerry Brown represented California and did some innovative stuff, and that was like right around the time the tech industry was just fucking taking off or whatever, right? And the Democratic political machine nationally wanted fucking Bill Clinton. They wanted a good old boy Southern fucking blue dog Democrat, one who could, you know, talk right to get black votes, but also be a fucking hella racist. Right? So like he was a Southern Democrat. They were still representing kind of the old structural order. And I think Jerry Brown was on the cutting edge of a new political faction,
Right.
being the kind of tech and finance that was emerging in the late 70s and early 80s. He ran against Clinton, I think, in 92. I don't have all the details. I haven't committed all this shit to memory, but that's vaguely the timeline as I recall it from memory.
Why would you? You can just Google it.
Yeah, but we don't need to dwell on it for very long.
No, I'm not.
Unless you want to fact check me. But
Oh, no.
anyway, it's same thing we're seeing now, right? Like with Donald Trump and the real estate and the industrial capitalists, right? Like battling it out with like the new capitalists, like the tech bros, the venture capital, all this kind of stuff. Versus the more traditional like real estate and raw materials like steel and aluminum and oil, right? Like gas. Kind of compete versus like clean tech, EV, and you see this battle, and you see Trump being like, "I'm going to stop us from making any electric cars because that's what's taking your fucking auto jobs." It can't quite possibly the fact that like you go into the auto plant and there's like fucking rope or like computers doing all the inventory and all that shit that used to be done by a person with paper,
Right.
right? And you see fucking things being moved by machines, picking them up from one line and putting them on another, when like people used to get a cart and push that shit.
Right.
Or there used to be a crane operator, and now it's just a fucking robot.
What a shit world we live in, where robots taking our jobs isn't seen as a wonderful thing, and we all smile and express ourselves.
Well, capitalism
own
is land,
particular way.
labor, and capital.
Yeah.
It literally
okay.
cannot conceive of a world without fucking labor, a need for labor and land or capital.
So you spoke about
can't
the old real estate people and the new tech people, but at the same time, the new tech people are trying to become the new real estate people by creating all these virtual worlds in which we can further waste our money. And like, it's even down to the point where on your phone you can get any number of games where it's like, we created a virtual world and you can spend real money in this virtual world to get fake property, but you'll get a return on it, we swear. It's like,
yeah, that's like NFTs, bro.
yeah. I never supported
You
it.
bring them in for some crispy French fries, and then you fuck them with some NFTs.
South Park, right?
Yeah, that's the vaccine special. That's when Butter's future self is an NFT fucking tech bro, and he's at least giving a pitch to the people working at the Denny's.
Yeah. Anywho, yeah. So I mean, really, it's all going to intertwine and all that stuff, and you're going to have the new people in the virtual world and all that crap. If everything doesn't crash in the next, 20
Oh no, I feel that, and actually, I kind of almost wanted to like shift the episode to that, but we had already kind of like committed to doing this.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of shit going on in Europe, man. Germany's like, yeah, we're going to send you long range missiles. And also we're saying right now, we're totally cool with you shooting them at targets in Russian territory.
Yeah.
The United States sent artillery personnel to Turkey.
Mm-hmm.
Could just be for training, right? Or they could have just been deploying a unit there that they normally have in rotation. I don't know. But the fact that they are sending artillery units to Turkey certainly doesn't bode well, given what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
The UK is basically like about to send a bunch of advisors, essentially boots on the ground in the country. Plus they were discussing or teasing that they might put naval assets in the Black Sea.
Okay.
And then there's shit going on in Poland, and we talked about Bulgaria last week, and there's a conflict that sparked up we haven't even talked about, and in the Caucasus. Right. And then Pakistan's like murdering, or India's like murdering people's diplomats or whatever, or journalists. I forget what it was. But there's also tension sparking between India and Pakistan again.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's always been like kind of a Cold War between them, but it seems to be getting warmer, which is also fucking frightening.
Yeah. I saw a headline I didn't have time to follow up on, but it said that China is saying that the Indian rover didn't actually land on the moon. It's like, oh, fucking shots fired, dude.
Well, you know what? Anybody could
Yeah.
fake a fucking moon landing.
Good thing no one has.
At any rate, let's talk about Di-Fi.
Di-Fi and her money. How much is she worth? Probably
Is that the article I posted or you?
You. I have
great.
Yeah, I have another one after this.
Yeah, so she grew up affluent, and then to the eldest of 3 daughters born to Dr. Leon Goldman, a physician. She graduated from Feinstein, became involved in politics, and married a judge. Their marriage ended shortly thereafter, apparently due to their differing views on women's roles.
Nice.
And then later she got married to a neurosurgeon, which is where she got her last name, Feinstein. And then he died in 1978. And then she got started her political career in San Francisco as a county supervisor, and then the city of San Francisco. And I mean, just her pension from the city of, so she's drawn a pension from the city of San Francisco.
Yeah.
Worth $1 million. She married a financier after that husband died. And then he was estimated to be worth $1 billion in 1980, which is
fucking 40 years ago. Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's probably several by now.
And some of those assets with that husband were joint.
Yeah.
They got into a bunch of real estate. You could scroll down. We don't need to talk about it, but her Tahoe mansion, which was protested at like not long ago.
Mm-hmm.
A bunch of climate protesters went up there. I guess it was 3 or 4 years ago now. Went up and took boats out on Lake Tahoe and like disrupted an event they held at her house.
Nice.
It was fucking rad. And some of this was actually like kind of real estate speculation that mentioned it's like, oh yeah, they bought this property, they built this fucking huge ass house, and then like had it for 10 or 15 years and then sold it at like a massive fucking profit.
Yeah. This is
right. And so like in that sense, it's like, okay, like that's not, I don't think that's ill-gotten. I definitely think she was already born with a fucking silver spoon.
Yeah.
Cannot say she worked for it and being all this like, oh yeah, well, she's an icon for women. It's like if women aspire to be in power, right, to be another faction in this small competing pool for power that we were just discussing with the Southern Democrats and the landed versus the new tech and the, all that other stuff. She definitely was always a part of that kind of upper echelon of society.
Mm-hmm.
And she occupied that space for a long time, and she did a lot of heinous shit that I definitely would say is inconsistent with feminist values.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she certainly, if she was advocating for women, she was advocating for herself to feel more at home and have more spaces for people like her in political institutions. She doesn't care about single mothers. She doesn't care about women with unwanted pregnancies beyond maybe lip service. Like, I don't know what she cares about, but clearly, like, of all the things she could have changed,
yeah,
she didn't do a lot for the vast majority of women who suffer, which are usually poor, poor single mothers. The biggest group of or black women or whatever, name your minority, right? Like, but it wasn't. It was about people like her having access to seats in power. So carrying on, estimated to have an impressive net worth of $110 million. Public service, obviously drawing a pension.
Yeah.
For most of her life.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want, she was alive for a long time.
Yeah. If you want to go over some of the shitty things that she did, I made a list.
Yeah, we could do that. I thought that was just really interesting.
Yeah.
Her husband, rich billionaire husband, died like a handful of years ago, She
Yeah,
held
it
on,
was
and
back in
apparently now a lot
2022.
of their estate is just being argued over his fucking kids.
Yeah, and that is actually something that the next bit talks about.
Yeah,
Because
we're putting the climate kids one at the end, right?
whoopsie, my kids. Oh yeah. Sorry, that was not clicking with me. Yeah, but first of all, for anyone who doesn't know, I guess power of attorney basically says that you can sign and do things on behalf of someone, and it is not always for like health reasons or anything like that. It can literally be like, I'm super duper busy. A good example I read was like, I'm buying a house out of state. My wife is not able to get there to sign the contracts. She can give me a limited power of attorney stating that I can sign on her behalf in regards to this house. And it
Right.
could be that specific. And at any moment, she could be like, nah, never mind. I don't want him to be able to do that. And then from the moment that she basically would say that, anything I signed after that would no longer be valid. And it can also be, it has to be that you are sound mind in order to hand it over, but like arguably that can be very very sticky area to get into, just because like when you have a lot of money you can pretty much like buy people and get them to say that yeah, she's of sound mind. But uh Feinstein herself said that the power of attorney that she gave her was with regards to selling some property that she owned, and then
Yes.
also with moving forward, trying to get money from her ex-husband Bloom, or from his estate via the trustees. And
Mhm.
there were claims on her behalf that they were not letting her have the money that she needs for in-home care during the 3-month period that she was not doing her job and still collecting money for it. And then them saying we never did anything like that. You can look at our records. And so like it's kind of not, it's neither here nor there, but basically as far as we could tell at the moment, her power of attorney was limited to that and not due to a lack of mental faculties. But if you look at footage of her and talk to people that were surrounded by her, her mental faculties were definitely questionable.
She's probably the only person in Washington that's worse than fucking Biden.
Yeah, I mean, we
Maybe
showed
her and
one.
McConnell are a fucking dice roll or whatever, but still, like
Yeah, I think we showed her
she was
last week.
clearly worse than Biden. Like she
Yeah,
was in a fucking wheelchair. She's looked feeble for fucking months.
yeah,
And
yeah.
you're right. Out of the last like 2 years, she probably spent half of her session time not present because, she went and just like fucking that. And that's what I mean, right? I was talking about like when she said, oh, she's a feminist icon or whatever. She wasn't no feminist of a fucking working class mother, right? She
Mhm.
wasn't a fucking feminist icon for some fucking, black woman in the ghetto trying to fucking raise her kids and work 2 fucking jobs, you know? Um, and just like fucking Ginsburg, man, their sense of entitlement, these fucking boomers, that she could just sit there and continue to get paid by the American public to be fucking feeble and pushed around in a chair and having no dignity, just their sense of entitlement outstripping their fucking sense of dignity and
Yeah.
individual like image and perception.
Mhm.
It's fucking crazy, dude. She just fucking sat there till she died. And Newsom's been talking about replacement for a long time. I meant to bring up his replacement, who he's going to do for replacement.
Yeah.
It wound up being, I think, the leader of the SEIU union. And I'm curious, like, the motivation. His big reason was because, like, he didn't want to appoint anybody that was running in the election.
Yeah, I heard that, which is silly.
And I think that's because he wanted to, well, at least on the record, as far as I know, he said he wanted to appoint Barbara Lee, who is like fairly progressive for a Democrat. She's a black woman in the East Bay, like Oakland, Alameda,
Mhm.
Berkeley, I think. Yeah, and so he wanted to appoint her. She's running for that seat. But then Nancy Pelosi wanted what's his fucking name from the district down south. Oh God, he was the big Russiagator guy. He's the one who did took all the hits to be the face man for Russiagate.
Okay.
and his name is slipping my fucking mind right now.
That's okay. I wouldn't know it anyway.
Yeah. So one of the Democratic politicians from the House, that's did his right, because the Democrats always reward those loyal to them,
Mhm.
or those who can raise a lot of money. So like
Right. The
Kamala
money
is a
is
vice
very important.
president and literally a heartbeat away from being the most powerful person in the world, because like she's really good at fundraising.
Mhm.
Because she checks all the fucking, PMC boxes.
Female, black.
Yeah, black. Oh, dual. She's black and Asian. She's a triple minority. Like, she definitely wins in the oppression Olympics, except for the fact that, like, all you need to do is basically like make her have like a little, a little stumpy hand or something, and then she'll be like, "Phew, no one can beat her."
She's Blasian. Do not Google that, children.
At any rate, like Kamala Harris is awful, but they reward her. And it's Adam Schiff.
Oh,
Remember
okay.
Donald Trump called him little Adam shit or whatever? Yeah, he's the Russiagate guy.
Okay.
And he's from a district, I want to say, like Palm Springs or something in Southern California, or like the Antelope Valley, or maybe it might be the South. I don't know where it is. It's somewhere closer to Southern California. And yeah, Nancy Pelosi really wants him to be the shoe-in for senator because
30th Congressional District.
I think Katie Porter is running too, and she's kind of viewed as sometimes pretty progressive. So Barbara Lee and Katie Porter might be the spoilers, or the spoil each other, and Adam Schiff gets fucking elected, and that would be perfect to just have just a fucking smarmy fucking white bastard in the fucking seat. I mean, whatever.
So I can think of a reason why Newsom would give it to someone, especially someone who wasn't necessarily like running, is a favor, curry favor. Because I think he's made it pretty clear he wants to be president one day.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Start small, start early.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you're absolutely
favors.
right.
Yeah.
It's that they give. It's just kind of symbolic.
Yeah.
It's like for one year basically, because the election.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it happens in 2024, and she had already said she wasn't going to run anyway. So I mean, you won't get it for very long, but it looks really good on her resume.
And I was thinking that it gave her the opportunity to go to Congress, to the Senate, and network in a way that like taps this union leader into the ruling class in a way that the ruling class is friends with. The ruling class is friends with this union leader so that they can kind of like scratch each other's backs.
Yeah.
And never really deliver for workers, but also deliver for the unions. Shut the fuck up.
Can't even hear it, man.
He just meows at me, and he meows at I'm come outside. He's got food in his bowl. I was like, don't sit there and do that just to get me to come outside so you can rub your face on my leg. Like, what the fuck, bro?
He's marking you, man. He's like, bitch, you're mine.
I will fucking I have zero problems bowling him down the fucking path for sure. I'll just pick him up and be like, give him a good scoop toss.
Hey man, as long as he keeps coming through with those dead animals, you should.
So our last bit on Dianne Feinstein, and that'll be our hour. I really feel obligated to talk Ahsoka, but maybe we can discuss that after this last clip.
Yeah.
Is we just like to remind you, and some other people I like also revisited this clip as her obituary.
Yeah,
which is
as the words on our screen said, not all of our dead become saints. So
I hope this one doesn't, but they certainly try to whitewash her. Oh, that's why I never heard of her rough upbringing until now. And you're like, why? Because her fucking dad hit her, or her dad was
drunk? It was in an old one, and actually it was her mother who was the drunk and suicidal and tried to drown her youngest daughter and abused the other two as well. So basically, she was an anti-Semite who had married a Jewish man, and she took it out on her kids. Yeah, not great.
Yeah,
but at the same time, it doesn't excuse anything. And the thing is, if you
traumatic histories, few of us have traumatic histories that give us $120 million a month.
And the thing is, if you look at her early career, it actually wasn't terrible. She did a lot a lot of crazy shit happened. She was an ally to the LGBTQ plus community that didn't actually exist by that name back then. But in general, like actually got shit done, assault rifle ban that never quite made it into, permanent law, but
I mean, how was that good?
It depends on who you are. For her constituents, it was seen as good. She also had a handgun ban in San Francisco when she was mayor. Anyway, but as she got older and older, she kind of like turned against the very people that had gotten her there. Like these
Also,
children.
she did not stop real estate speculation, she actively engaged in it.
Oh, okay. There we go.
So like the biggest problem plaguing that city today, and probably has been plaguing that city as far as I know for all my entire life, but like the cost of fucking housing, and she did nothing to help that. In fact, she participated in the system and propped up the system that creates the crisis.
Right. And drives
So
up
like I don't know how many
prices.
fucking lives she saved by removing these hypothetical assault weapons from San Francisco houses, but she certainly fucking hurt a lot by putting people on the street.
For sure.
In situations where they get preyed on by housed people, by other unhoused people, and by fucking drug pushers who like are selling them a short-term fix for what's a systemic issue.
Very true. I think what's worse about this headline here, well, you didn't vote for me. Viral video shows Feinstein dismissing kids over Green New Deal is not even the worst part of the interaction. This is.
Oh, no.
Looking at the faces of the people.
What?
Oh, nothing. I was just going to say, my favorite part's when she's like, oh, you don't like the job I'm doing? Then why don't you run for office?
Let's let it go.
Yeah.
People who are going to be living with these consequences.
The government is supposed to be for the people and by the people and all
You know
for the
what's
people.
interesting about this group is I've been doing this for 30 years. I know what I'm doing. You come in here and you say it has to be my way or the highway. I don't respond to that.
The environmental activist group Sunrise Movement posted an edited video on Twitter of the tense meeting. Feinstein told the students the aggressive climate change proposal had no chance of passing in the Senate, and instead she's pushing for her own environmental resolution. She acknowledged she may vote yes on a Green New Deal resolution. The Democratic senator offered one of the students an internship and later called the meeting a spirited discussion.
They didn't even include some of the worst shit that they actually just talked right over it. I should have found a better clip. But yeah. She's not exactly a nice person. And I mean,
no,
on top
she's
of
an
all
absolute
that,
fucking bitch.
Yeah.
Sorry, I cut you off.
Well, on top of that, I collected some of the shittier things that she had done. And so let's go ahead and I'll list them off. Let's see. She had fought for the San Joaquin River early in her career, and then about a decade later, she overrode the protected status of some of the fish in the San Joaquin River, and now they may or may not be extinct. She hugged Lindsey Graham, and that's bad enough, but it was actually at the confirmation of Amy Coney Barrett, and she then celebrated, getting the job done. She opposed filibuster reform, which was like something that a lot of people really expected her to work with because she'd been filibustered a lot of times, and it is very obviously a technique that just slows everything down and doesn't do anyone any good.
So dumb.
Yeah. She was known to publicly shame staffers. She helped to push the 1994 crime bill, which of course now has incarcerated millions. She is pro-drone strikes and surveillance state.
Yep.
And she thinks that Edward Snowden is a traitor. And I obviously think that's incorrect. But I think by far the most heinous thing was that she clung to power, claiming that she wanted to do the best for the country, but ultimately enriching herself. And worse than that, she fucking died on the job. And didn't give anyone who was younger and more progressive an opportunity to put their ideas into the government. Instead, just kept her super old ideas there. Yep. Not great. Yeah.
Which is why we kind of keep coming back to this concept of the gerontocracy. Murray Bookchin in The Ecology of Freedom, I think it's the second chapter, he discusses the gerontocracy, and I might have mentioned this before, I can't recall. He mentioned that the gerontocracy is probably the original hierarchy.
Yeah.
because
Because
at the
it was
time, like, they
basically
made figurines of pregnant women. They worshipped women,
Mhm.
right? Like, so patriarchy wasn't really a thing till private property, like or really more structured societies
Mhm.
that introduced the patriarchy, right? The gerontocracy has always existed.
Yeah.
So this is a great example, right? Old ideas. I have my own resolution. And all of that's fucking theater. Those kids don't know shit. She's right. I mean, but
Yeah.
you've got to fucking play ball. And it's like, you didn't vote for me. And, that's the whole thing. It's like, well, people apparently wanted her there because they voted for her. It's like, no, the party won't allow anyone else to be on the ballot.
Right.
And Californians are notoriously conditioned to vote for fucking Democrats,
Yeah. And
no
incumbents.
matter how
We like them both.
conservative and awful they are. Sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Oh, and I was saying, and incumbents, and we like them both.
Yeah, no, it's fucking awful. And really, I mean, she's a perfect example of why we need to have a maximum age. I could see
Yeah.
with the Supreme Court, no maximum age, so long as certain faculty tests, like of their mental faculties take place, and like physical health, which does happen, right?
Mhm.
They have access to good doctors.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so as long as like they're good and they don't miss too much. Like, it's one thing if you're like, oh, I had this medical emergency, I'm old, and so it takes me a lot longer to recover than someone who's like 30,
Mhm.
right, or 40.
Yeah.
But like at some point we have to do, I mean, chronic absenteeism is something the schools always talk about, right?
And they give them less money if the students don't come in.
Yeah, and they don't pay them if they don't go in.
Yeah.
The school district money. So yeah, so all of
Yeah.
Congress should be penalized if like people are
yeah.
missing too much fucking work.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. Right. And that hurts everybody. It hurts the committees she serves on.
Mhm.
Like, she's just functionally not doing anything. She just has too much pride to retire.
Well, and as we showed in the video, I believe it was last week, there was a point at which, she was just supposed to cast a yay or nay vote, and she started reciting
Yeah.
the argument for it, and someone had to tell her, just say aye. It's like, you put that on a shirt. Like, it's all that's wrong with it. It's like you literally have someone coaching someone on how to do the job because they're mentally not there. Like, no, be gone, be gone. Like, it's so terrible.
Yeah, and it's almost sad. It almost feels exploitative. It does that way
Mhm.
with Joe Biden for sure.
Well, definitely one of the reasons they didn't want to get rid of her is because she held a lot of like high seats and stuff like that. And so by keeping her around, you kept those seats in
Well, and filthy rich and connected to
assignments.
filthy rich fucking people.
Yeah, exactly. And so like I think a lot of other people are probably to blame for her staying around. They probably convinced her that she was necessary and just to do what your handler tells you to do.
I think that like her level of wealth transcends a lot of what we think of as wealth.
Mhm.
Like, because it's not like yeah, I mean, Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, they have financial advisors managing huge amounts of money. But like when they get quoted as being like, oh, the richest person ever, like a lot of that is speculative.
Mhm.
It's because they start companies and then they fucking own all of the stock.
Yeah.
Or the vast majority of the stock.
I mean, it's similar to how Trump was inflating the price of his buildings by, 1,000%.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It's not tangible. This chick fucking wealth ran so deep, it was fucking tangible.
Yeah.
They
And she
could
wasn't
sell a
super
house
old
and
money.
make
I
$20
mean,
million fucking dollars on it.
yeah. She wasn't super wealthy. Or sorry, her family wasn't super wealthy. Like early on in the country. I don't think they got here until like 1908. But then
Oh,
they
you mean
very
her
quickly.
extended family?
No, her like like father and grandfather.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so
her
like
father was a doctor in San Francisco and they lived in a nice neighborhood. So I'm
Right.
guessing if he might have been the first one to really do well.
Yeah,
I'm
I think that's
guessing
what it
that
was.
probably the ones before did okay too.
Yeah, from the description, it sounded like he invested in something else and then became a doctor, or like was already a doctor and then made some smart investments and he became very wealthy. So yeah,
Yeah,
both
probably.
ends.
Right. He had a good skill that was valuable.
Yep.
Made a lot of money, was smart with his money, made more money because really that's the mean, that's the ultimate deciding factor on who is wealthy, is like, how much access to money did you have to begin with?
Yeah.
Because that's the only way you do it,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, you can be successful. I'm not saying like you can't experience like a high degree of material well-being and still be ethical, right? Person I was with the troop leader, veterinarian, husband does like computer programming or something, like,
Mhm.
or something in computers. Like, they both have professional jobs that probably pay 6 figures or close to it.
Mhm.
She likely makes 6 figures because I think she's an actual vet, not like a vet tech.
Mm.
She's a doctor, an animal doctor or whatever. So like, they're making fucking fantastic money, but I wouldn't say that that's like this level of wealthy.
No, not at all. No,
They don't
still
have
to work.
9,500. They're like, oh, we're gonna put a pool in. I was like, damn, you guys are loaded. You're just gonna fucking put in a pool. That's like 30 grand. This bitch had like a 9,500 square foot fucking mansion on Lake Tahoe,
Yeah.
which is like, it's kind of like it's the West Coast equivalent. It's the Bay Area equivalent of like Jackson Hole or Martha's Vineyard
Yeah.
or whatever, right?
It's true. Not everyone knows what Tahoe is. Whoa.
People know where Tahoe's at. But they do. There's a ton of people with like fucking huge ass, or Coeur d'Alene or something. Ton of fucking mansions on the lake, all this other stuff.
So what's this about Baylan's quest? Unless you have
Yeah.
more.
So that's it. Di-Fi is fucking rich, and I don't feel bad. And she occupied the spot way longer than she should have. And I actually think it's sad, and it's indication that her pride and sense of self-worth,
Mm-hmm.
right, and a sense of entitlement over being able to sit in that seat as long as she wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also the fault of fucking voters for allowing her to be there.
Yeah.
And I hope that age becomes a fucking issue in every election. Because Barbara Lee, who is running, is not young. She's not a spring chicken.
Mm-hmm.
She was in the House during the Iraq War vote. So she's been in Congress at least 20 years.
She's 77 years old.
Yeah, exactly. She's already fucking super old. So she's going to get elected and do one term. And then who's running against Adam Schiff? I think he's like fucking like barely 50. Katie Porter might be. They're both under 55, I think. They're both fairly young.
Adam Schiff is 63.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah.
What about Katie Porter?
Katie Porter. I'm on it, man. She is 49.
Yeah.
So vote for her.
Katie Porter is closer to our age.
Yeah. Much closer.
Yeah. And he's 63?
I am still old. Yes, 63.
That's still not too old, though.
No. But I mean, he should be retiring in the next couple of years.
That's what's up, bro.
Yeah.
Like, if most jobs would have pushed you out the if a private company would have pushed you out the door, no matter how skilled you are.
Gold watch, get out of the way.
Guess what? Yep, gold watch, get out of the way. And then guess what? When we want you, we bring you back as a consultant.
Mm-hmm.
So what they might do is the party might retain them as a consultant for a small fee, or as a volunteer position, where they can come and speak to people and maybe participate in how to move forward on something, but they're not actually in there doing the work, sitting in the committee meetings day after day. It's a lot of work. Have you seen anybody go to Congress and be there for, like, especially the presidency? Like, do they fucking age so fast?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, it's 8 years, so like, and that's a decade. But
and I mean, that's the thing, is when you're that age, though, every year becomes more and more apparent.
Right, it accelerates for sure.
Yeah.
All right, bro. Where are we at?
Baylan's quest. That's all that's left, and then we're done.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to like throw out some quick speculation on Ahsoka.
Do it.
I don't know, dude. What are your opinions?
What? No, you can't. It doesn't work that way.
I think that's because I was working with this general theme for the episode of Mystery Solved and Unsolved, right? Like, Unsolved is
what
Baylan's
is Baylan
quest.
doing?
What is Baylan's quest?
I don't put a whole
Solved
shit
mystery
ton of
is
effort.
old, feeble, senile fucking people need to get the fuck out of the way, and they're gonna die,
including Baylan. He's old. Shit.
Yes. And Donald Trump lies. That's another mystery solved, apparently.
We all knew that already. But anyway, I don't know. I don't really tend to give it too much thought.
I don't have predictions.
outside of like my initial watching.
Right.
Yeah.
If I had to offer a prediction, and I think
Mhm.
this tends to be fairly universal at this point, I haven't watched a ton of Star Wars stuff over the week, but I think it's fairly universal at this point to that most people agree he'll probably like introduce and or like find what he's looking for, but there's no time to develop it. So it's just going to be like setting other things up. A lot of people are like, well, you know, and then they can write him out, or he can stay in the other galaxy and deal with that, and they never have to come back to him if they don't want to. And I was less like, all these people that are like, don't recast, or, you know, or just like, oh, it's such a sad thing he's gone. And I'm like, recast. And now I see more people after they're like, just recast him. The character's
Yeah.
too good. Like,
It's only been
just
a season.
recast it.
Yeah.
As sad
Only
as
been
it
a
is,
season,
recast.
Terrible, but yeah.
I don't fucking give a shit. And then I saw just the other day that someone was like, and they should just recast fucking Han, Luke, and Leia too.
Oh, instead of bringing them back as ghouls?
Yeah, just because like that whole C-3PO thing where like Leia, if they're going to operate in this period of time, right, between Jedi and The Force Awakens, like those characters have even in canon novels a big role to play. And you can't really tell a story that takes place. You can tell lots of stories, right? But you can't take a story that takes place in galactic politics and major galactic events without including at least Leia and Luke, right? Like, maybe some Han Solo stuff. Maybe he's off with Lando or something, right? Like, you can't really tell stories without them, and it shows because like they're like, oh, we want Leia to Leia needs to be here because she's still in the New Republic and she's a high-ranking official in the New Republic. Like, there's no way she's just AWOL for this show. And so then they have 3PO come in. It's just fucking recast her. We'd all rather just see someone who plays the character of Leia.
They already
critique that actress. Oh, she really captures Leia, or oh, she really fucking doesn't do a great job, and it'll take a while for me to get used to this being Leia.
Yeah. Well, they already did it for Lando Calrissian. Like, why not?
And Han Solo.
Technically, I was going to say they've done it for Han Solo too. So, like,
I think Aaron Reich
played a
fucking great Han Solo, and I think Donald Glover plays a great Lando.
And they need more money, damn it. So hire them. Especially the guy who played Han Solo. He hasn't had a lot of work.
He was in that movie. What was it? You're right, but I think we talked about him before. He didn't really have a lot of work before that too.
Yeah, he was in a TV show or a movie. I can't remember which, but like that was really about it. Like maybe one other thing. Yeah,
and that's fine if he gets. I think they should. That Lando show I think would be great. Especially if they could break it into, do it more like Andor, do a 12-episode season and break their adventure into 4 3-episode arcs that are loosely connected
with tons of robosexual tension.
Tons of robosexual, tons of homosexual tension. Yeah. It's like that's one thing they got right in Solo the movie was like basically portraying Lando as like, which we've joked about before, which really kind of for all of us kind of tinfoil hat fans were like, we knew there was something weird between fucking Lando and Lobot. I mean, so much so that a children's nighttime book I have, where Lando's in it, the line is while Lando and Lobot lie peacefully dreaming, because it's a book about going to sleep. It's called Goodnight Darth Vader. It's a fucking phenomenal book. I might actually do a video just where I just read Goodnight Darth Vader. That'd be cool.
Second only to Go the Fuck to Sleep.
Yeah, exactly. Go the fuck to sleep. At any rate, you want to cue the music?
Sure do.
My big predictions. I gave my one on Ezra. I honestly think he'll not want to leave. I think everybody's going to get stranded. I think everybody does, and then they have to figure out how to get out. And Thrawn is going to have a head start to repiecing the remnant together.
I mean, that was
before these heroes come back. And it would really overshine Luke, And even his kind of turn he took in The Last Jedi, right? It was too much pressure, right? Like, and he fucked up. Well, that would take it away when you're like, oh, wow, you have these two very, very powerful Force users, right?
Yeah.
Ezra and Ahsoka are fucking powerful Force users, right?
Yeah, Ezra more so than Luke, and even Ahsoka more so than Luke.
Both of them, Ahsoka more so than both of them combined.
Yeah.
Ahsoka actually had formal fucking training and was a child soldier and learned how to fucking survive in a war zone for 4 years.
Yes.
3.5 years. She bested fucking Maul in single combat. She bested fucking multiple Inquisitors in single combat.
She used to write a memoir, call it Invisible Soldiers.
She's straight up like the fucking most gangster of any Jedi alive. She could easily take Luke.
Yeah.
Easily.
Yeah.
Hands down.
He's
a
little bitch at this point.
He's like learning from holocrons and Force Ghosts, bro. Like,
Yeah.
She learned from fucking, not just Anakin. She learned from Terrace Nube. She learned from Yoda. She learned from Plo Koon. She went on missions with Luminara Unduli and her Padawan. And they went on missions by themselves together and learned about the Force and learned about surviving and learned about, fucking martial combat and all that stuff. Like, she faced fucking Grievous in single combat and survived.
Yep. She murdered a lot of people.
And he killed a bunch of fucking Jedi, including Shakti. If your fucking headcanon is that one version of Shakti's death and not the other one.
The only version that matters.
I think her
Tartakovsky.
death came later. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But anyway, so this has been With Thunder's Applause podcast, a podcast where we try not to talk about electoral politics, but old people die and Donald Trump's lie. And police take a long time to I don't know, there's got to be a joke in there somewhere that I'll let a black comedian tell, right? Like something about like, this is the first time the police ever like needed to have a strong case against like a black defendant, right? Like,
no,
because otherwise they usually just fucking lock them up for nothing.
Yeah.
God, what a world we live in. And it's not getting better because Donald Trump's going to win this fucking election if they can't fucking stop him legally. And they're trying, and I don't think it's going to stick. And I think even if he has fucking, oh yeah, we convicted him, he's, whatever, he'll still get all the votes.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see the pretzel people twist themselves into that just a handful of years ago we're talking about how awesome it was that Eugene Debs got like 1.5 million votes from a prison cell.
Damn it. Yeah. Just
at any rate, it's a good time. It's a good time to be alive. I'm excited for Ahsoka. We will do our Ahsoka review
season wrap
after
up.
show season wrap up Thursday 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Yeah.
And with that, we like to remind you here with Thunder's Applause that when liberty dies, it dies
with thunderous applause.
Take it easy, my friend. Bye-bye.
Thunderous applause.